One of the things that I like to do this time of year being August, is to start making plans for blankets for Christmas. Now, I like at the end, so you can see this is actually at Crochet World. This is actually from a magazine company. Crochet World's a magazine company, and this is their winter 2020 Afghan magazine. I believe you can still get it on their website, crochetworld.com. It's a digital magazine. And what I like to do is collect these after Christmas. Sometimes you can get them on clearance. Sometimes they're just everywhere and you can just really easily find them. I like to get one and then kind of work my way through it the following fall. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I'm not going to get through all 44 of these blankets this fall. September, October, November. It's only 3 months. December in there, maybe I can get some blankets, and then that's a lot of blankets to get done in that time. And there's 44. It's only 52 weeks in the year, and some of these blankets are going to take me a long time. I'm actually going to start at the back. I'm going to walk through this magazine real quick and kind of give it a quick overview. This is 44 separate blankets. There's a bunch of different types. They have them grouped. What I like about these books or these magazines is there's not a whole bunch of fluff in here. It's just straight patterns. So it's a really good amount of patterns for the dollars. What I don't like is its physical media. However, if I need to do a lot of like going in the car or doing going somewhere, like I'm going to be traveling to a conference soon, this can actually be really nice to take with me, because on like planes, sometimes in the car, it's not easy to use a pattern on my phone, and I can reference the book itself. But generally, I don't buy magazines in physical media. I generally buy online subscriptions. But this one I really liked, and I'll show you a couple of patterns that really stuck out to me. And I will also note, you can go on, if you are a Ravelry person, you can go into Ravelry, grab this pattern group from this, for this magazine, and see all the different patterns in there. And then you can also see where they would also be available, what else they are published in. But I'll include those in each of these individual videos as well. I am going to be starting with this one here. I am going to try to do from start to finish. I may skip around a little bit for some of these, like these more work intensive ones. I may try to get a little bit of those done every week rather than trying to do them as one big group. Because it will probably take me a week to assemble them in some of these cases, and you'll see that when we go through. The nice thing is they put the scrap blankets at the end, and my plan is to put aside all the scraps to these different blankets and then use them for these projects. So let's go back to the beginning. Here we can see the table of contents, and most importantly, the beginning. I should say in the table of contents, they've grouped them so very nicely into Afghan traditions. These are more traditional style Afghans. Baby oh babies, these are all baby blankets. Modern life, these have a more mod look, but the work is really classic. You really can't go wrong in any of the classic styles. Labors of love, these are going to be more work intensive. And then scrap happy. As always, there's a design directory, a buyer's guide, and a stitch guide. You should find all of those in every magazine you buy. What's nice is that buyer's guide tells you all about what companies' yarns were used, so you can easily find those websites and find where to buy those particular yarns if you want to use those exact yarns. And then a stitch guide to kind of walk you through what stitches are used in all of these patterns. So even if you're new, or some of the stitches in here are new to you, there's a quick guide in the back. Let's do a quick review of what's going on here. In our Afghan traditions, we're going to start with a mock cable throw. You can see, I'm going to see if I can get you zoomed in a little bit. There we go. There's these little mock cable stripes that go on. It's looks like maybe double crochet or single crochet, and then some cabling and back and forth, and then a nice little border around it. From there, pretty and pink granny Afghan, really classic look. This is a granny square blanket style that I grew up with. Most people had them with either navy or black or white as the join. But this style is really classic. I cannot guarantee I'm going to make it in this color. I don't know how much of this I have around the house, and I'm aiming to use up the yarn I already have. So this will probably end up being some of the yarns I have smaller skeins of, and use them appropriately. Elegant Floral Afghan. This one actually uses cross stitch, and I don't cross stitch. So I will not be adding that cross stitch on there, but I will be doing those panels because it is a Tunisian, and I haven't done Tunisian in a while, so I think this will be a nice revisit to really classic basic Tunisian, all in one simple color scheme. And then if I have a friend who likes to cross stitch, maybe I'll let them do that. Flowers in a row. If you haven't ever seen one of these, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. It's actually a row of green and then a row of another color done in a way that it makes it look like a flower. It is super classic. I remember seeing these in scrapbooks, scrap blanket books when I was a kid at Joann's and MJ Designs back in the day. And then All American Granny. This kind of evokes a quilt, pretty classic granny square style with the offset. You can see it in the little pattern here. Those offset squares, so it's square and then a diamond and then a square, and so it ends up giving a really nice look. And then our other super classic, kind of reminds me of Captain America's shield, but this is again a classic style of a blanket. Now this one is not something I'd seen a lot of. I do see some of these on Pinterest with the post-stitch squares. I haven't actually made I have made one postage square. I shouldn't say that. I have made one. But it'll be nice to make little ones. I think that'll be interesting, and I may use a more interesting yarn set than they are. But we'll see what comes out of that. French Provincial has these little lacy panels. Autumn Octagon. So it's a nice interesting shape, and looks like it has some interesting stitch patterning too. So it's not just the same thing every round. This is the one that really attracted me to this particular collection because I love this style that has those panels, that kind of mile a minute style. You can see it's a mile a minute style. And those work up pretty quickly. I don't know that I'm going to make it again in those fall colors. I don't keep a lot of that style of variegated color in the house, but I do have some really poppy fluorescent variegated colors in the house. They use Red Heart Super Saver worsted for this, but I could always size it up and use something bigger, like a chunky, or even a really heavy 4. Waves of Fire. This is more panels, get long strips and short strips. Monet strips. So this uses that mile a minute styling again. Now let's get into the baby blankets. Hudson Bay Baby, more stripes. Little Boy Blue. This gives you a granny, and then they call it plaid panel, but these are more of these are these offset double crochets or half doubles depending on how they're doing it. It looks like they may be doing doubles. Yeah, they're doing offset doubles. And that means a double, and then you make single crochet or skip over those stitches. It's very similar to a really commonly done scrap blanket, or there's also I think it's called Trio Blanket by Skipius. That uses that style, and it's really nice for mixing a bunch of different cake yarns together into one blanket. And here we've got simple stripes. It's simple, but there is a slight pattern to them, so it gives it a little more interest and a nice little border. A cute little circus star. This is really classic. I love to have the mega blocks with it in the picture because it does look like something you would give a baby or a toddler. Super bright, super perky. And it uses your basic Red Heart Super Saver in some of those classic bright yellow, patty green, royal, cherry red, and royal. Really, again, your most basic. This is what I grew up making. And they use a P-hook, so this must be double stranded. So this will work up super fast. Baby popcorns and squares. Similar look to that 6-day baby blanket or kids blanket I've seen everywhere. I actually made one once. I made it in like a couple of hours. It didn't take me days, but this one includes some grannies, and it says it's fringe as you go, so that'll be nice. And I have a bunch of yarn I can use for that. It's hanging around the house. Octagon baby, love an octagon blanket. Love anything non-standard shaped. They say there's some embroidery that they encourage you to do. Lazy daisy stitch. I might be willing to do that if there's a little bit of that. It looks like it might just be in the center there. So I might be willing to do that little bit of stuff. Lacy ripples. Beautiful Victorian doily. Done on the large. They use care on 1 pound, so that looks like it's just a skein. Level simple 1 skein blanket. Snowdrops for baby. Very similar to that flower one we saw at the beginning. But it's done with these more of a puff and in white, so it does kind of look like snowdrops. I might do that in a different color combination. Not a huge fan of that color combo. Forget-me-not. I love these styles because they take up very little yarn and they work up really quick because it's a lot of double chain ones. They've got a little bit of a review here in the middle for some gift set for looks like Afghan hooks. And then this bag by Eden and a clip-on light and stand. I do highly recommend, if you crochet on your couch, having something like this because it makes it a little easier and you're not interrupting your other people in your living room with a super bright light everywhere. And then Modern Life. So these are going to be a little bit more mod. I'm expecting the yarns here are going to be a little more modern yarns, not so much Red Heart, a little bit more of the funky stuff. And we're starting off with the Red Heart Light and Lofty. I don't know that this yarn's made anymore. I will have to check. But it's a simple, super bulky, so you could use like homespun, thick and quick, that kind of yarn for that too. And they also use Pompadoodle. I do actually have some Pompadoodle up on my shelf over here. I don't know if I have 2 skeins of the same color in my house. But I can always mix. So it's Pompadoodle. It's fine if I mix it. Zebra Flare. This is, actually I think I've seen this a lot in scrap blanket books. It's interesting they put this in the Modern Life section, because I'm pretty sure I usually see this in the scrap section where they're anticipating you're going to buy like a skein of white and black and then just use your scrap for the other colors. It is a really nice design. I do like how they have it offset, so it's very it's got a lot of action going on. This one's called Tribal Rhythms. It says it's supposed to resemble drawings on African entryways. I haven't been to Africa yet, but I will take their word for it. It is really pretty. It's done in panels, it looks like. Yep, panel assembly. And I do like it how it's got that texture. There's texture everywhere and the texture is broken up. I do enjoy how it looks. Persian tiles. I'm just going to zoom in a hair here so you can see that. I don't know how you can see it. Let me actually move this a little closer to you so you can see those tiles. These kind of tiles are really popular right now, but generally in these gigantic blankets, this might be a really good option for those of you who are a little anxious, because you can just make one square. If you hate it, it's a big mug rug, or you could, use it as a huge coaster or something like that, and you wouldn't have to, or if you make 2 and make a little bag out of it if you don't like it. So this kind of blanket might be a good start for those of you who are not huge fans of or very anxious about making something in a mosaic style. Now, because it's done in a mosaic style, I'm expecting this is going to take a little more work. It's going to be a little bit longer to make. Oriental octagons. This looks like a ton of fun. Can't guarantee I will make it in those colors, because it's just not my colorway, but it is really pretty. Carnival colors, super classic coloring. They're using the Red Heart economy, same as we saw before, those real basic yellow, red. They actually have purple in here, blue and green, but you can see it is done in all of these little diamonds, and those diamonds are flip-flopped, so the stripes go in opposite directions. So it could end up with a woven look, at the end. We'll have to see how it looks. It's hard to tell in the picture that they have included here exactly what it looks like when it's done. Might be done by the same person who did the other blanket, because I have to go back and look, because we got those same mega blocks in the picture. Biker blanket. This is using Vanna's Choice and Vanna's Glamour, which is worsted in a fine. They're mixing a worsted and a fine weight, so I'm assuming that the fine is, yeah, works for it with 2 strands. I don't know that they make Vanna's Glamour yarn anymore. We'll have to find a sub if they don't make that anymore. I don't think I have any fine sparkly yarn in the house. Granny's color palette. This is a great modern take on a classic tiny granny. It looks like a 2-round granny square. So it's a real easy to make, super small, works up super fast. You could do a whole skein in a night. And it looks like they're doing 13 yards each in 13 shades of purple. I don't know that they mean that. But there's basically 13 groups of purple, so you could do any purple shades that you wanted to. It's kind of a scrap blanket, really. Great to combine your different colors of this, different yarns of the same color. So you get a bunch of tiny skeins of stuff hanging around your house. This would be a good way to use that up. Spiral Afghan. I think might have made this exact one before. I'm not sure if I've made this exact pattern, but I've definitely made one like this, and they're super easy. Do make sure you have your stitch markers, and they're super nice. I like them. They're really kind of super simple to make. Labors of Love. These are going to be more difficult, so these are going to take me longer to make. I'll probably, I think I mentioned earlier, work on these a little bit at a time, a couple squares here and there or whatever as I go. But you can see this is like these big squares and then some smaller square experiences. This is probably going to be the most complex blanket I've ever made, and I've made a phoenix. I've done Hooked on Sunshine blankets, and this is probably going to be more complex than that, just by the look of this. Yeah. Flower squares, Afghan blocks, finished. This is going to be an interesting... Yeah, this is going to be super interesting. There's lots of different things to make. Looks like they do give you some pretty good instructions. And they show you a solid color Afghan as well. That looks really cool, but boring. So I will probably not be making it all in one color. I'll probably be doing multiple colors. Squares and ripples. Similarly, lots and lots of squares. I'm interested in the way that they're going to put this together. Really fascinated in how this is going to be assembled. I haven't read any of this, but this could be really interesting. Aran strips. I've made a blanket like this before. It wasn't that difficult to do because you can do a strip at a time. You can kind of take it with you and work on it on the road, at the park, wherever you go with your life. Crystal Beauty Afghan. This one looks like it's going to be a bit of work, at least for the first few. Sometimes with these motifs, once you get the first couple of them, they're pretty simple. I don't see... I can see the first motif takes up quite a bit of room. It does have a lot of special stitches. So this should definitely be an interesting one to make. Scandinavian Granny. Sounds like I'm making a bunch of granny squares. They're going to make those Scandinavian snowflakes. Yes, they are. That's an interesting version of a Scandinavian snowflake. I haven't seen one done like that before. I do like that it's black and white. I will probably use a sparkly white with that. I might make that out of some of the Joanne Big Twist Twinkle, because it's a really cool yarn. And I have some around the house. Cables and colors. So this is a panel of just stripes. I don't know if you're supposed to do that exact stripe pattern, because it's not the same in each stripe. And then this cable in between. Yep, they give you exact color sequence. Fascinating. And gingerbread bear. Ooh, I saw him. Yeah, they're using him as a wall hanging, which means they had to leave some unfinished, unsecured, unassembled at the top to allow for that. But they did it low enough that that border should really give it enough extra oomph to keep it up there. But that's an interesting choice to use it as a wall hanging, kind of like that. They do note that it is a festive fellow is decked out in holiday finery, but their colors can be changed to fit any season. So if you have a friend who super likes teddy bears, I guess you could put that in there. It actually might make a great wall hanging in a baby's room for that kid to use when they're older. If you want to make something for them to use now, if you have a friend with a teddy bear themed baby room. And here's our Scrap Happies, Waves of Warmth. These look like pretty classic. You've probably seen these before. My expectation is when I look these up online, they're going to be in tons and tons of different books and collections, because scrap blankets are a great thing to have a couple in your back pocket, especially if you're like me and you make stuff all year long, and then you have these just totes of scrap ends. To be able to use them like this is really nice. So here we've got Waves of Warmth. This kind of looks like a ripple, fan and feather and fan style ripple. Cabbages in a Row. This is a bobble kind of pattern. Looks like bobbles and double crochets. Tunisian Tiles. Is this done on panels? It doesn't look like it. No, and this is done in a Tunisian hook. Very interesting. Not how I would have expected that to work together. I would have expected this to be something you assemble later on, but it looks like you just kind of do it as you go. Shifting Stripes. This is, I think, really intended to use, well, it uses 2 strands held together throughout. 2 strands of 4 using a J-hook. That's going to be an interesting, for those of you who are tighter crocheters, you're probably going to have to go up a hook or 2. But this is a really nice and easy way to use up large chunks along with small bits. So you have like a big colored chunk and then like a stripe or 2, big, small, big, small, big, small. You kind of shift through the different colored sets that you have. Reversible Rainbow. Basically, your scraps on one side, plain black yarn on the other. They're using Super Saver in this one. Not surprising, a lot of these scrap blankets tell you they're to use Super Saver, but they really just mean use a size 4 yarn. That's what it's intended for. And you can use whatever medium worsted weight. They suggest it's going to be about 27 ounces of various scrap yarn and 4 skeins of 7 ounces each of the black. So what is that? 28 of the black. What the estimate you'll need. Another super classic scrap blanket. It's basically a yo-yo blanket. So you have these little yo-yos in the middle that you make of your scraps, and then you join them together with the black. Sometimes you edge around and then you whip stitch them together. Some of these you'll join as you go with the black. It just depends. And they use a really nice lacy border you can see along here. And that's really cute. They call it confetti stars. I like that. But 500 yards of assorted scrap colors. My recommendation for a blanket like this is every time you have a small amount of scrap that you don't think is useful enough for a whole blanket, for a whole scrap blanket, like it's not going to make a whole row, make these before you throw the whatever you have left away. Toss them into like a yarn bag that you have. If you have a bag or bin or a basket, and just keep assembling them in that throughout the year or many years until you have enough. I don't know how many, it says 391 of them. So when you have a ton, start assembling them with your preferred background color. You might not need a pattern, just do whatever floats your boat. And then Autumn Glory. This is super, super classic. pretty sure I've seen this one in books at least since the 90s, possibly in the 80s. It's just a super classic style. We saw earlier in the plaid sections of one of the blankets this basic look where it's offset doubles. So they're doing double crochets, and then they're either going to do a single crochet or a chain 3 to skip over the next double crochets, and they'll double into the doubles below. So it's kind of an every other row situation. And it looks like you just change your colors as you go. I can't see, does it have like a, they use black and then your assorted scrap colors. 15 ounces and then 21 ounces of the black, they say, which I assume is because you have this border that has these big scallops on it. And here we have some ephemera, some of this extra stuff, those blankets. Here's that assembly diagram for the Oriental octagons. We're back here to our overview of all of them, design directory. Here's that buyer's guide. So these are the only brands they're using in this particular book. But of course, your brands and choices will vary. But this is really nice to help you find all the color of the things that are used in here, to find those websites without having to go search online. Or if you're someone who doesn't have access to the internet much and you want to be able to physically mail them stuff, they actually include their address, which is nice. And then that stitch guide. So it goes through all the stitch abbreviations that are used, and then yarn conversions, stitch conversions for US versus UK, and then all those basic stitches that they're using in the book. Okay, that is all we've got for you. I will be back shortly with another video on that first blanket, this mock cable throw, and we'll get that made up. That one calls for 8 skeins of country blue. I don't know that I have 8 skeins of blue around, but we'll see what I've got. And it might end up being smaller. It might end up only being 6 skeins of blue. I'm pretty sure I have 6 hanging around. Or I'll buy 2 more skeins of blue to finish it up. It looks like it's going to be 46 by 56. So if I wanted to be 46 by 46, 6 skeins actually would be nice. Nice little square blanket. But there we go. We're going to start that. Thank you for joining me. Check back regularly into this playlist that I'll post up here in a second once I have a playlist started. And we will go through all of these blankets.